Oh dear, we have a problem. Hello and welcome back to another episode of FTB Sky Factory 2.5. My name is Twin Minds. I may have made a mistake. I'll get back to you in a second. So, as I was saying, minor technical difficulties. This powered lantern is keeping them from spawning up there. So what happened was I was attempting to rewire things and it turned off briefly and caused a problem. Normally, not a huge deal when mobs dropped down here, except for they were all being left alive and then started infighting, which then triggered a creeper to explode and cause this havoc. And then they all spilled out and started trying to kill me. So, that was fun. But that does give you the hint as to what I'm doing next. I did mention I was planning on fixing up this mob drop and turning it into a mob grinder to get some kills out of these things. One of the main reasons for that is the loot. Obviously, I was just getting overwhelmed with loot. And the other reason is that when they are dropping, they are not, when they die, they're not dropping items that would normally drop if I were to kill them. There's two different methods of kill. There's accidental and then there's player kill. And player kill has a different loot table. So you get different amounts of stuff and different more rare loot from the critters as you kill them. So there are machines that emulate that, and that's what I need to do to set this up to start them giving me things that I want. So I made some changes, as you can probably tell here. Not the mistaken changes that they caused, but purposeful changes. First off, we have a little bit of platform here, and I moved our friend, the hat stand, and the inflatable giraffe thing up here, and the loot stand, the loot recycler, because I'll be using that up here to recycle whatever I don't want to keep. I also, made a thing. I made a nifty little stairway that goes all the way up to where I want it to be. The main reason for that is down there, where they were dropping previously, was enough to kill most of them. Obviously not all of them, the ones that had more health were sticking around. But if you move it up just enough, they all should survive. For the most part. I measured it out to about 19 blocks for a drop, which is enough to keep most of them alive. I'm not too concerned if a couple die here and there, but for the most part, most of them should stay alive long enough for the machine to kill them. So that was the reason for the height change, and the stairs were just a pretty little added bonus to that. It is messing up my walk flow a little bit, but I will be correcting that eventually, so I'm not too worried about that. I also got rid of a few chests, not much, mostly did some consolidation, and got rid of some stuff I didn't need, but there's still quite a lot left over. And also, we have a little invasion going on here that I need to head off at the pass. I want creatures, and these things are spawning instead of creatures, so I need to get rid of a few of them. However, I don't want to just destroy them, so I'm going to store a few away for later. The challenge with these is that they are supposed to act as villagers and offer trading, but they don't do that currently. I'm right-clicking on them and nothing's happening. So, do they not go in the ball either? There we go. Shift right-click to get them in the ball, similar to the way villagers work, because they're supposed to have a right-click action that's not working currently. So a few of these are being tucked away. I might even come back and grab the rest of them too. But ultimately I do want creatures to spawn, so I can attempt to get some stuff that I actually want. So they're just going to get tucked away in here with the rest of them. And this loot bag can get out of my inventory here. As you can see, I took a few out. So this I'm going to have to fix. I did not intend for that to blow up right as I was about to start recording, but that's alright. I also made some changes over here. I moved the pulverizer and furnace setup that was grinding down the dusts and then smelting them to ingots. I moved it under here, and the output chest here. Normally, chests cannot open if there's something above them, but this slightly larger chest from Extra Utilities does work. So that's why I put that one there instead. I also added a third pulverizer and sifter. I wanted to get sand sifting, whereas previously I wasn't concerned about sand sifting. So I had to add another one in here. I've changed up quite a bit of the workflow in how all of these get processed. Ultimately, the bottom line, instead of explaining how the whole thing works, because I've almost forgotten myself, the bottom line is cobble comes in here through this igneous extruder. This works just like the cobble gen over there. It takes water and lava and just generates cobblestone from it. The benefit to the extruder is that you have the option of making stone or obsidian as well. Stone, normally you would smelt up cobblestone to make smooth stone. In this case, it just uses water, whereas cobblestone does not use water or lava, and obsidian uses lava. So if I were to make use of these, I do have to pump some stuff in to get the output that I want. But for right now, it's just my cobble gen, which is feeding into here, and, oops, didn't mean to turn that on, but that's okay, I'll grind some stuff up. Cobble will go into gravel here, and the way I have it set up is that some will move up to sift here, some will move over here to turn into sand, and then into dust, etc. But some will also go up here into this new drawer that I added. So I will have cobble, gravel, sand, and dust available. Now all of these are set up to do the same thing. They will grind down to the next level resource and then output some into here. As you can see, my gravel is full at 8 stacks because I had it running for a while. And ultimately I just wanted to keep some of these available so that I can do things like cook up some sand or some glass, or make use of the dust, which helps me get clay, that kind of thing. So I wanted to have some of that stuff available if I need it without having to hammer it down myself, which I had been doing. So these sifters run fairly well. I do need to speed these up a little bit because they're a little bit slow since the gravel is splitting between multiple different sources. So that will get upgraded at some point, but I'm not worried about it right now. And ultimately the rest of these, the hammers and all that, that's all the same, just different filtering in the back. The back, by the way, is kind of crazy looking. So that's why I didn't want to explain my filtering setup, because it turned into quite the mess. But it works, so I'm not too worried about it. However, I can't move around back there anymore. That's all right. I also added these up here to take the output from sifting sand and sifting dust, because I had not been processing those before, so they were just kind of backing up in the sifter. So those are being taken care of as well. Yeah, I've done quite a few things here, but all little stuff. I also added a few more solars because I was kind of running out of juice a little bit. So, the first things first, I will clean this part up off camera, but I do want to make the machines that I need first here. I think I have everything I need. I will be making use of Mine Factory Reloaded, which has a lot of nice automation machines. A planter for crops, a fisher to get fish, obviously, and so on. So there's quite a lot of options in here for stuff that I can be making use of at some point in the future. But since there's so many of them, I'd rather just search for the one I want. The grinder. The grinder is the mob killer. So I will need 10 gears. And if I recall correctly, for the next thing I want to make, I need 4 total of those. And then machine frames. I need 2 of these because I will be making a second Mine Factory machine. I need an Invar sword. Only 1, please, thank you. And I finally got my sword achievement, that's nice. I have the books, and I need the redstone receptor coil, which I did not grab enough redstone. I do need 2 of those. Like so. And then I can make up my grinder. And then the other one that I want, it's not quite part of the grinding mechanic, but it is part of the tackling the loot afterwards. A disenchanter. An auto disenchanter specifically. So to get this, I was missing a component. I was missing nether brick, because I had no netherrack. There are methods to get that, and the only method I have access to currently is this method right here. So you plop down, good old barrel, but this time you throw lava instead of water. And notice that ticking timer there. It will burn up because it is only a wooden barrel. But as soon as I throw redstone in there, it cools itself down and turns into netherrack. So I'll cook these up into nether brick. I don't need this barrel anymore, but I don't have anywhere else to put it at the moment. And then while that cooks down, it's done. That's fine. So nether brick. These bricks turn into a single brick block, which is what I need to make my disenchanter. Good. My inventory is a little bit more freed up now. That's nice. So I'll dump off the rest of that stuff in here. Now, what I need to do is I need to fix that mess. But yeah, I think I'll get the other part I need first. I do not have much redstone left, and that is a concern. I only have 26. I don't like that, but that's, I think, enough. Now, you may notice this tiny little change here. Is that little keyhole. I figured out how to make that key that I was so disappointed about before. And I didn't even store it in here. I stored it in another chest over there. But anywho, I made the key because I was able to make the upgrade template that I couldn't make. I read up on it, and it turns out in this pack there is just a tiny little glitch with the recipe for this with NEI. So while I couldn't click it to get the recipe still did exist. So all I had to do was figure out what that was and then make it manually. So I was able to get that done and got my key made so I can lock down these drawers so that when I pulled out all of that redstone there, the redstone is still visible and it will know to go in there when I need it. So that's good. And then the other thing I need is plastic, I believe it is. I believe I needed the rubber bars, actually. And might as well make that in here. I need conveyor belts. Now there's a few different options for conveyor belt. This one from Extra Utilities is a full block in size, but there's no animation to it, which a lot of people prefer for FPS issues. There's this one from Immersive, which is a really nice one. It's very well configurable. It's got a nice model to it. And I do like it a lot, but for this case, I think I want the Mine Factory conveyor belts. These ones behave slightly differently in that they don't actually take up a block size. What they do instead is they kind of almost paint over the block that you place them on, in a sense. And then they will act as an item to move critters around. So I need a full stack of them. Okay. And that's right, I'm doing this the hard way, but that's okay. That can go back in there, that can go back in there. Notice I did put the 18 redstone in here, and it did show up in here in the form of 2 blocks of redstone. So that's why I locked down that drawer, so it can continue being used. Now, what I'm going to do is take these conveyor belts off camera here, because it's going to be a little bit of pain. I need to get back up in there. There should be no monsters left, hopefully. If there are some left, I will be very sad and will have to fight for my life, but that's okay. If you recall the speed shot that I did previously, I set it up using water to transport the mobs. What I'm doing is I'm changing it for conveyor belts, and then I'm going to increase the height ever so slightly. It is currently 2 blocks high in there, which stops the spawning of Endermen, but I would like to start getting Endermen. So I'm going to increase the size and height so that they will spawn, and switching to conveyor belts makes it so that they don't freak out when they touch water, which they typically do, and they would teleport away. So the conveyor belt stops that. So they will be part of the system now. So that is the change that I'm going to make here. And then I will return once I'm ready to start setting up the automation part of it. Alright, I think I'm finally done with that. It was quite a bit of work, but I managed to take care of it. Now, I also did make a little bit of a change, just because I wanted some new armor that did me some good. I got the Traveler's gear. Traveler's goggle, vest, wings, and boots from Tinker's. I think it's a little used armor, but it's a nice early game armor that does grant you, I believe, full diamond protection. You can see the full, I think it's 10 armor things there. It also has some abilities. This one allows you to zoom, like so, and you can see my cows that I was looking for. Those are the liquid cows after I got rid of those hobgoblins. So you can zoom quite well, and you can see things from far away. And then also swift swim, so if I do end up having to do a water elevator again, it should go a little bit faster. High jump, which is nice, and high step. High jump is just a little bit higher. And then high step allows you to walk over a full block, whereas you normally would not be able to, like so. So it's common abilities that are on a lot of advanced armor, but it's very early game, easy to get, just a couple ingots and mostly leather. So it's a nice piece, and it looks decent. It looks decent enough. I also have a hat on, a top hat with an arrow through it because it amused me, and it kind of sort of goes with the outfit even. So I like it. It's nice. Now let's get back to business. I have my grinder here. I'm actually going to put it right here in this slot, so when critters fall down, they will land in this 2x2 spot, and they will get ground up with that. If you were to place this so you could see the front of it, there would be this little grindy looking mechanism that actually does move whenever it's active. I also built myself a diamond chest here. I don't know if it's going to be necessary, but I would like to be better safe than sorry. It's got a lot of storage space, just a ton. So that will help prevent this thing from overflowing if I don't process everything quickly enough. However, the grinder, if it does overflow, what actually happens is the grinder kills the mob, and then it actually picks up the item for you, so you don't have to do the hopper situation that I had below. And then it filters that item into the chest that's attached behind it. If there's nowhere for it to put that item, the whole thing grinds to a halt. It just stops functioning. So that will cause critters to back up, and I would rather that not happen. So I will need to make sure that this chest has plenty of room and is cleared out fast enough. The other thing that the grinder does is create a liquid after grinding down the mobs called mob essence. So that liquid will fill up in this tank and can also grind the whole thing to a halt. So I need to make use of that liquid or get rid of it. That's where the auto disenchanter comes in play. If I recall correctly, I may be wrong, I believe it uses mob essence to help in the disenchanting process. And the disenchanting will take things like this feather falling and fire protection and remove it from the item and put it onto a book. So this power 2 and XP boost that I got from this bow would go onto a book, so I can then use it later for other enchanting. So that's the disenchanter, and it will take care of all this enchanted loot that comes from killing the mobs, and it will help me in the processing of things. So that's kind of the plan there. Let me place this down somewhere. And no, there is no tank. So this is the one that does not use mob essence. I believe the enchanter does, and the auto anvil does. So I may make use of that at a later time. But that does mean that I don't have anything currently taking that essence, which means I need an answer to that. I don't know what that answer is going to be at the moment. I might do something that I really hate doing and actually just void it. Might just send it off to its doom so I don't have to make use of it at the moment, because I can always make more later. So let's see what we have to options for voiding. None of this stuff. This is a metal. This is metal, 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 metal. Void jar. Well, that could be a challenge. I don't think I have an option to void a liquid. Unless... Aha! I do. I have a trash can for items, fluids, and energy. Why anyone would ever want to void energy is beyond me, but it's there in case you need it. So, which means I need a trash can and a bucket. That's generally easy enough. Trash can, I will make another one of those because I may need to actually destroy items in this whole process. So, a fluid trash can. It pains me so much to have to do this, but every once in a while it's necessary. So that fluid trash can can go right down there. And that, like so, should pull out the liquid and just dump it right on in here. At some point I may remove this setup and start tanking it. I don't really have a good tank solution yet, and whatever I put down here will fill up pretty quickly, so I would rather not have to deal with that at the moment. Now, the other thing I will need is energy. I'll just plop that right there. And energy somewhere. This is going to be pretty horrible at the moment. But it will be a thing. Ooh, dear, that jump. That's unexpected. Well, it's expected, but it's still, I'm not used to it yet. Ha, that means I might be able to get back there without having to climb the walls. That's interesting. So I need power. And don't worry about my terrible wiring at the moment. This is all just temporary until I can get it working the way I want it. So that goes there, that goes there, and there. Shortest connection ever, but it works. So this should be receiving energy now, which is good. This idle timer just keeps ticking down. When it has nothing to do, basically it just stops it from processing all of the time to save the server some ticks. When there is something to do, it does tick down a lot faster. So that's energy. This disenchanter can go right back where I put it before. Why not? That is going to take all of the energy in the world that I own, I think. And that might be something that I don't want to do right now. I'm not sure yet. Because ultimately this is going to be a lot of energy usage. And it is going to burn books pretty quickly. You'll need to constantly feed this thing with books, and then constantly take the books out and put them somewhere. And that's not very space efficient, so I may rethink this. I may not end up using this disenchanter at all, but for right now it's there. Now, the other thing I need to do is move this powered lantern and give it back the switch that I have removed temporarily, which is why I caused that problem in the first place. I will remove this lantern and reposition it once I'm ready to let them come back out again. But for right now, it stays right where it is on permanently. So the next thing is I need to deal with items. Now, I don't really have a solid plan for this. I will be totally honest, I did not get a chance to think this through. I have a few ideas, but nothing quite solid yet. So I think I will need to mull that over a little bit more now that I have this set up in place, so I can visualize a little bit better what I kind of plan to do here. So I will return in a bit. Alright, so as you can see here, I have expanded the wall slightly. By slightly, I mean doubled it, but that's okay. I do need a lot of storage space, and these storage drawers are a really good way to have extra storage without taking up a lot of disk space. Especially for items that you don't ever expect to get too terribly many of. In this case, like the Flux crystals, for example, they can sit in a quad drawer even though there's not much storage space in there, because I don't expect to have 8 stacks of them on hand anytime soon. Same with the amber blocks, that kind of stuff. If any of these ever do become a problem, I can expand them easily, because these storage drawers actually can be expanded with upgrades, which can increase the storage space on them. So that's always an option, which is why I had no problem making a whole bunch and just plopping them down. I did lock them all, which can actually be done by taking the key and just right-clicking on the controller. See all of them unlocked and then all of them locked. The reason for that is if you pump items in and there are drawers available that are not locked, they will just go in there. So all of a sudden you'll see onesie twosie items just showing up in each one of these spaces. So I didn't want that happening. I would rather control it myself, which you can do by just plopping in the item while it's locked and it just takes it. The challenge is then undoing that. You have to right click, then pull out all the items, then right click again to lock it. So I try not to do that wherever possible. I do need a couple more things here, which I will craft up right now. I already grabbed another compactor, because I will need that, I'm fairly certain. I will also need an autonomous activator, and the reason for that is this is how you automate the loot bags. The loot bags are automated by using, that was weird, using the autonomous activator to simulate that shift right click onto a chest, like I showed you before. And the autonomous activator can do all sorts of things. It can shift left click, it can right click, it can do the sneaking action or not sneaking, and you can choose a level in case you need to place up or down. And then you can round robin or randomly use items or just use the first slot only. So it's a very handy tool that I make use of often, because there aren't very many things that emulate that clicking or right clicking any different or any better than this thing does. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that once this thing got made, no one really bothered making another one because it was just pretty much perfect. Now what I need to do is I need to figure out how I want my item flow to go. You'll see here I brought up an item conduit, which I wired all along the side there. Now what that is doing is that is feeding into a controller slave. This acts as an input for the whole drawer collection without acting as a second controller. Because if you have a second controller, the whole thing kind of goes haywire. But the controller slave allows you to have another input point that inputs into the whole network rather than putting an item conduit here and just inputting into that single drawer. So that controller is acting as that secondary input, so I can use this whole drawer wall as my storage point for this whole setup, which will be handy once I figure out how many items I'm going to be getting and all that nonsense. So what I'm going to do is plop down another chest, let's say right here for now. This will be kind of the temporary output from whatever else I am processing will end up going in here before it gets dumped into the system. If this thing fills up, the whole thing is going to grind to a halt, and I will have to look in here to see what is left that I did not process and then account for that. So this is going to be a long haul process, I think, of killing creatures, seeing what comes out of them, and then figuring out how to deal with those items as they come. So this is going to take some time, but I'm okay with that. So I need to plop this down here. Sure, why not? And then I need another chest. I did not plan that one out. So let's grab another chest here. I probably should do a bigger chest, which I can certainly do. Let's make it an iron chest, because I happen to have iron on me, so why not? Iron chests are slightly larger than the basic chests. Let's see, we've got... Okay, that's slightly more than slightly larger. We've got a double chest here, which is 6 by 9, and it looks like the iron chest is the same. So this iron chest in one space takes up half as much room as a regular chest. So it's definitely nice. So this is going to go here. Now I need to set this up to shift, which is sneak, and then right click. And I don't care which item use option it uses. I definitely don't want to do this one though, because first slot only means that this whole thing is going to fill up with bags and then not use any of them except for the one that goes in the first slot. Let's go with right click, shift, and round robin. Aim level can be straight ahead, and I do need to give it some power. Like so. And then I need to feed items into it. So I will need to do that, that, and that. So this thing pretty much is always going to be set to always extract everything, because I want everything that shows up into here to be pulled out and thrown in various directions as I figure out what needs to go where. So this is always going to be always pulled out. This one is going to be insert, and I'm going to have to use an advanced item filter, because if you look at loot bags, there are only 5 of them listed, which normally would go perfectly for a regular filter. But I do know for a fact that there are other loot bags that are not listed here, which irks me just slightly because they should be listed here if they're a valid item to get in the game. But that's okay, I can ignore that oversight for now. I will take 2 of these loot bags. Actually, let's take them all, because I want to test this. So I'll take these loot bags and put them into the filter so that this knows that it can receive just these items. And then I can throw the loot bags in here. They will move into here, which looks like it's already been done, and then they'll be shift right clicked onto this chest to dump the contents. You can kind of see that this way if I plop them in here. And they will shift right click into the chest and they will go in there. So now that I have items, I can start putting these places. So I know that I have glowstone dust and Certus quartz crystal already in my drawer wall here. So I don't need to worry about filtering those at all. The tank, however, is more of a unique item. I do know I will be getting a lot of them, so what I think I will do is grab the ones that I've got already, which includes some in this chest here. Yes. See, I already have 10 of them, so I do get enough of them to justify putting them in one of these drawers. It doesn't matter which. Now that one will always store tanks. It will always get tanks in as they come, and then that's that. I doubt I will ever get 8 stacks of them, but if I do, then I probably have other loot problems, so I'm not ever going to concern myself with that. I also will get chicken and bone, and then ingots and ladders, cookies, etc., etc. So I will need to actually make space for all of these. The seeds and pumpkin seeds, all that. Some of these can be compacted, some of them cannot. So if you look at the usage of a cookie, you can turn it into mana. You can turn it into cookie jars. That used to be called a mana cookie, but now it's apparently called a biscuit of totality. That's alright. Those are the only 2 uses for a cookie, other than eating it. I know that mana biscuits, or biscuits of totality, are amazing food items, but it takes a lot of mana, and I don't feel like feeding those. So I may see if these will go into the loot recycler. So that's going to be the next step of this processing problem, is the loot recycler. We'll put that, that's a terrible spot for that. I need to find a good place to put this. Where do I want to put this? I will put that right there. It doesn't look too terribly great, but I have a feeling that I'm going to be taking stuff directly out of this diamond chest and throwing it into the loot recycler. So I'll put that there, and that will be fine. Let's see. I'll have to set up my filtering later, because that's just going to be a pain. But if I put this in here manually, good, it does take the cookies. So I know that I can filter the cookies into there. Depending on how I want to do this, I think what I'll end up doing is something like so, and have that set to insert. You know what, heck, I can probably set that to insert and extract, so it goes in and out on the same line. I don't think I will filter this. What I will do is I will leave it at a low priority at 0. I may even throw that at -1 just in case that screws me up. So anywhere else that I have connected to this line, which I will do like that, all of the things on this line will be a last resort thrown into the loot recycler. And this thing will only accept items that it can process. So I know that a cookie will go in here, and if the cookie has nowhere else to go when it's pulled out of this chest, it will go into the loot recycler. I'm not going to turn this on yet because I don't want to start dumping all my items quite yet. So what that allows me to do is this bone, for example. I do have a drawer set up for it, but if that drawer fills up, I don't want to have to keep processing bones because I don't need that many of them. I would like a full drawer in case I need to make use of some bones at some point, but I don't need infinite bones. So then any bones that are left over will go into this lower priority one and dump into the loot recycler. So that's how I'm going to be tackling that. Now the loot recycler, the extract, which is this channel here, that will pull out the bags, the loot bags that are created by the loot recycler. And those are going to end up going into a compactor, like so. I want this to be... yeah, I'm going to have to item conduit that as well. And that's going to be an in and out as well, so bags can go in here, get pulled back out, and then dumped into here. I will have to figure out this system and the way the items flow, because once you start getting one line connected to a bajillion different things, you need to start really worrying about your flow and which way the items go. You don't want loot bags suddenly thrown in places you don't want to deal with them. Like, for example, I don't want loot bags ending up in a bunch of drawers and then getting my system filled up. So once I get all this thing processed, it will take care of everything. But that's going to take some time. And it's going to take some time to figure out how I want it to process. But for now, I think I will turn the system on and see what happens. All I have to do is break that and stuff will start going down. It will take a moment for them to start filtering through the hole. Oh, never mind, I just heard one. I am going to set up my switch though in case I need to turn it back on. Switch, low voltage wire coil, and then my lantern. Also, because I just turned off my light, I need to check make sure that everything's lit up properly, which is not currently. That could have been hazardous. That can go right there. Sure, why not? And then this can go up here with a switch like so. I'm putting it one up in case I want to put a redstone control on the grinder at some point. And then I need my wire here and my wire, there it is, right there. So now I can turn that light on if I need to. Good. So I need to figure out where all this stuff is going. Alright, so it looks like a bunch of stuff is flowing into the compactor already, so I might need to turn that off until I figure it out. Although it shouldn't be a problem if it goes in the compactor. I'll have to figure that out. I may end up with some junk items that get compacted that I don't want, but that's not going to be a huge issue. It's not like I'm not going to be getting more items this way. So all this stuff will be flowing through, and I'll have to figure it out. Where did he come from? That's the problem. Where did he come from? Oh. I'm going to have to make sure that's not a problem at some point. I'll have to keep an eye on this to see what happens with that, because he should not have appeared outside. I don't need another disaster. That would be unfortunate. But I have the basics of my setup, and I will continue monitoring it. Apparently I have to deal with some heads here, and we'll see what comes of it. But for right now, I will leave it here. See ya.